The London beer flood was a bizarre and tragic event that took place on October 17, 1814, in St Giles, a densely populated district in central London. The flood was caused by the sudden rupture of a massive vat of beer at the Meux and Company Brewery, which sent a tidal wave of beer rushing through the streets, leading to multiple deaths and significant destruction. The Meux and Company Brewery, located on Tottenham Court Road, was a large establishment that produced thousands of barrels of porter, a popular dark beer at the time. The brewery stored its beer in enormous wooden vats, some of which could hold as much as 3,500 barrels, about 1.4 million litres or 320,000 gallons of beer. On the day of the disaster, one of these large vats, which stood 22 feet tall, burst due to structural failure. This triggered a chain reaction, causing other vats to rupture as well. When the vat exploded, an estimated 1.4 million litres, or 320,000 gallons of beer surged out of the brewery and into the surrounding area. The force of the flood knocked down walls and even caused part of the brewery to collapse. The flood hit the nearby densely populated working-class neighbourhood of St Giles Rookery, a slum filled with small homes and narrow streets. The torrent of beer swept through the streets, filling basements and knocking over anything in its path. Tragically, 8 people lost their lives in the flood, mostly women and children. Many of them were either trapped in basements or drowned by the sudden rush of beer. Some were killed by collapsing walls or debris. The victims included a young girl and a mother and daughter who had been having a wake in their home for a 2-year-old boy who had recently died. The flood also destroyed 2 houses and severely damaged several others. It filled cellars and low-lying areas, leaving many with no place to go. Although the event was seen as both tragic and absurd, the owners of the brewery faced no legal repercussions. At the subsequent inquest, the disaster was deemed an act of God, and no one was held liable. The brewery attempted to recover some of the lost beer by selling the salvaged liquid at a discount. Despite the tragic loss of life, some Londoners saw the event with a macabre sense of humour, and it became the subject of jokes in the city for years afterward. The London beer flood remains one of the strangest industrial disasters in British history. Though not as deadly as other disasters, the bizarre nature of a beer flood in a major city has kept it alive in public memory. The event highlighted the potential dangers of industrial production in urban areas during the early 19th century, as large-scale operations were often poorly regulated and safety measures were inadequate. The London beer flood has been referenced in literature, documentaries, and history books as an example of a strange and tragic accident. It remains an odd, almost surreal chapter in London's long and storied history, reminding us of the unexpected and occasionally bizarre hazards of industrialization. Despite the light-hearted associations people sometimes make with a flood of beer, the London beer flood was a real disaster with tragic consequences for the families who lost loved ones and homes in the tidal wave of porter that swept through the streets.